So, Mike, I decided it was time to start working on your barbecue knife. Um, Playing around with a few different video camera angles. The audio, for some reason, got out of sync here and wasn't able to get it back into sync. So, you don't get to hear the tink, tink, tink of a hammer blow. But yeah, you're going to see me making some mistakes along the way and getting the thing started up here. You're probably noticing, like I am, that the camera's jumping around like crazy. I tried a few different camera angles, and we'll see which one is the best one. I'm pretty sure the next one isn't it, as you'll see in a second. So yeah, things get really hoppy here. This camera angle had it sitting almost right above the uh, anvil, and I thought that would look great, and it does look great, except for things jumping around like crazy. Here I switched over to the cross peen, thinking that I would start drawing out the edge, and then I realized, no, I don't want to draw out the edge, number one. And number two, as you can see, that peen is still a bit too sharp. I'm going to probably have to take it to the grinder again, because it was leaving marks that weren't the kind I was looking for. Then I realized also that I'm not ready to draw out the edge. Move the camera back, and the audio is in sync again, and as you'll see in a second, the camera doesn't jump around anymore. So along the way here, I'm basically trying to figure out which side is going to hold the edge, how thick I want the blade to be, how wide I want the blade to be, etc. I cut off a long bit of the coil to figure it out as far as to how much material I'm going to want in the long run. This is going to be a longer blade than most barbecue knives, but it's also going to have a long, more graceful hand, I don't know what to call it, the part between the handle and the blade. And then I'll have a handle on there. And, just figuring out all the dimensions, because I'm just flying blind here, was an interesting challenge. Along the way, though, I also found that these tongs aren't the right ones to do this job. I know that blade tongs are something to work with. I also know that I need to make some V-bit tongs. But I also just was fiddling around and discovered that I bent the actual reins on these things, and ended up having to bend it back to be able to work with these things at all. So it's this heat when I finally decide what the dimensions of this thing is going to be and where the where the edge is going to be. What you're seeing just now is me doing the preform, where I moved the tip to the opposite side. Now, why I moved the tip to the opposite side was simply because I needed to actually get a sharper point on the end, and I couldn't do it where the tip was. It was easier to do so by basically forging the tip to the opposite edge. And you're going to see that, you might have seen this in Forged in Fire, but you actually bend the blade tip in the opposite direction of where it is you want it to go. Of course, that's assuming that you're not going to just grind the edge on. In my case, I'm actually going to put a bevel on, and as a result, that's going to push the tip in the opposite direction of where it is right now. All I'm doing here is smoothing out the edges to make sure that it actually has the dimensions I'm looking for. There is a little bit more flattening going on, just cleaning up of the surfaces and so forth before I start putting the bevel on. Here's the next time that I get the hint that these tongs aren't working for me. Again, as in my previous heats, I had widened the blade a bit and worked on some of the dimensions again. This time it's more of a cleanup heat, getting the bends where they should be, and not any real heavy forging, just more bending and cleanup. But as you can see, those tongs are getting really wonky. I'm having a hard time holding the coil spring dimensions in there. And right about there, I should have had a real clue that I needed to stop and do something about how it was being held, because it really wasn't being held anymore. I thought I could deal with it right there, but clearly, as my tong clip was all the way at the end, it really wasn't doing much of a job anymore. I'm pretty sure that's not what they mean when they say drop forged. Time to put it back in the heat and go behind the camera where the post vise is, straighten those reins. And now to begin beveling the edge. Now, this is the first blade I've ever made, and so wasn't exactly sure the right way to hold everything to get the bevel going. I just knew hit more towards the edge, not in the middle. And my hammer control isn't the best yet. I'm still working on that, but it was coming along. No more heat in that blade, so it was time to put it back in the heat. But I am also starting to think about exactly what the rest of the tang will look like. I ended up switching around like that because I really wanted to take advantage of hitting it on the edge, kind of a half on, half off type thing, so that I could avoid hitting the anvil with my hammer. That didn't work as well as I'd hoped. And every time a piece of the forge scale flies off, it wants to land right in the crook of my thumb and forefinger. And you can see it's starting to make that shape. And I didn't really want your knife to have a buoy look, so you'll see before I'm done, I'll end up doing something about that. remember I was saying I would get that Bowie knife look out of it, as it's not going to do us any good in a barbecue knife. And I haven't made the beveled edge thin enough yet where it would hurt for me to work against it. So basically, I'm still working on getting that tip just right, and working on the shape. I've got a tiny bit of a banana going on there from not doing a preform of a big enough curve to allow for the beveling. So I'm working that out here.